Hi, this is Annoo and welcome back. I am so happy you decided to join me today for a super cool tutorial. I am super excited because today I am sharing with you my favorite simple V-neck sweater pattern. And I love this pattern because it is knitted with a circular needle. We talked about circular needle last time I uploaded a video. Check it out, I'll put it somewhere there. But those are my favorite knitting needles. They're bamboo, they're circular, and we're going to use it to create the whole sweater. The sweater is knitted from the bottom up. It has a 2x2 ribbed little bottom and then a beautiful stockinette stitch, and it's really easy to make. It only takes very beginner skills, and as usual I will take you through it slowly but surely. So I'm so excited to get you going on that sweater. I chose a specific yarn, which is the loops and thread something sparkle, but of course you can choose any yarn you want. I will put the gauge of my swatches in the info box down below, and also the written pattern will be on my blog, of course, in the next few days, not right away, give me a few days. Here is the beautiful sweater. I love it. I love v-necks. Those are my favorite kind of sweaters, and the beauty of creating your own is that you can do the v-neck exactly the way you like. I don't like them to be too big or too short. If they're too big, like this t-shirt I'm wearing now, I have to put something underneath. This v-neck sweater is perfect. It covers exactly what I want, and yeah, adorable. The size that I'm showing you today is about a small medium, and other sizes will be on my blog as well. If you are not subscribed, come on, what are you waiting for? It's totally free, and let's make this knitting family grow. What else can I tell you? I am so sorry about the light. It changes in every one of my videos. I'm super low tech. So I have a light in front of me, I have the sun that is coming and going, and also the aperture of my camera. I really do not control it yet, but it will come. I have a new camera now for both of my channels, so I know that I posted something on my crochet channel and I just disappeared in the background, but yeah, it's a work in progress. I hope everything is going well. I just came back from a vacation in the Bahamas. It was beautiful. Oh, it was so nice to warm up, and it inspired me for future's project. The beautiful colors, I love those colors, the ocean and the sand, and oh, so beautiful. So without further ado, if you are interested in knowing how to create this beautiful V-sweater, then keep on watching, and in the meantime, happy knitting. See you next time. Bye. For this tutorial, you will need 5 skeins of the Sparkle Luxe loops and thread in blue. It is a beautiful yarn with a little sparkle in it. It's a bulky yarn. I will put all the information in the info box down below. You will need a 9mm 31.5 inches circular needle. You will also need an 8mm 31.5 inches circular needle, a 9mm 16 inches circular needle, and an 8mm 16 inches circular needle. You will need, of course, a stitch marker, a tapestry needle, and finally some scissors. Take your circular 9mm knitting needle and take your yarn and begin to cast on. I will put the link to my knitting for beginners tutorials in the info box down below, just in case you need a refresher. I am going to cast on 100 stitches in total. We are going to begin to knit from the bottom up. We are creating the bottom border of our sweater right now. Cast on 100 stitches. Try to cast them on loosely, not too tight, so they can still slide easily on your circular knitting needle. And I will meet you once we have 100 stitches casted on in total. Here we go, we have 100 stitches in total. Make sure that your 100 stitches do not twist, that they are all facing the same way. And once you're sure that they do not twist, follow the whole circular needle. We are ready for your first round. Grab your stitch marker and place it right there in front of the last stitch you casted on. All right, grab both of the end yarn and the working yarn and begin to knit. 1 knit stitch, and then grab only the working yarn. Leave the end yarn to be for now. We will sew it in later, and make another knit stitch. we are going to do the 2x2 knitting stitch, which means 2 knit stitches, 2 purl stitches. So now make a purl stitch and another purl stitch, and then 2 knit stitches, 1 and 2, and then 2 purl stitches. And this is what you're going to do all around your first round. And I will meet you at the end of your first round. So here you have your stitch marker at the beginning of your first round. We'll meet you at the end of the first round. Here we go. We end our first round with 2 purl stitches. Grab the stitch marker, move it from the main needle to the working needle. And now let's tackle the second round. Scooch all the stitches from your main needle to the front for ease of knitting. Put your stitch marker to the front of your work as well, and you are going to do a second round of 2x2 rip, beginning with 2 knits and then continuing with 2 purls. And you will continue like that in pattern all along round 2. And in fact, you're going to continue like that around and around until you reach the end of round 9. I will meet you at the end of round 9. That's the width I wanted for my border for the bottom of my sweater. You can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. That is what I like. Look how pretty the rib stitch is, the 2x2 rib stitch is. I love it. All right, so we are at the end of round 9. I'm going to move my stitch marker from my main knitting needle to the working one. And for round 10, it's going to be super easy. It is going to be a round of knit all around. We are going to work in stockinette, but the beauty of circular needles is that the stockinette is created by making only rounds of knitting. So you still have 100 stitches and you're going to knit all around until you meet the stitch marker again. I will meet you at the end of your round 10. This is what your stitches will look like. At the end of each and every round, don't forget to slide your stitch marker from your main needle to your working needle and scooch your stitches from your main needle to the front. And now we are at round 11, which will be a round of increase. I will show you how to increase. It is super easy. So you're going to make 9 knitting stitches, and I will show you how to increase in the 10th stitch. Alright, here we go. So you have 9 knit stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 9. And in the next stitch you're going to knit twice in the same stitch. I'll show you how. So knit regularly in the 10th stitch, pass your crochet hook to the front leg, yarn over, push the working needle down, and now you have kind of a half stitch made. Instead of just sliding what's on your main knitting to your working needle, you're going to go to the back leg of that same stitch and you're going to make a knit stitch in it. Just like that. And now you're going to scoot everything out of your main needle to your working needle. And just like that, you made 2 knit stitch in the same stitch, therefore increased. And this is what you're going to repeat all around your 11th round. Make 9 knitting stitches, and then in the 10th one, you're going to knit 2. 1 in the front part of your stitch and 1 in the back part of your stitch. And I will meet you at the end of your 11th round. You're going to end your round by making again 2 stitches in the last stitch of your 11th round. And now for the 12th round, which will be a round of knitting all around. Round 13 and 14 will be rounds of knitting all around too, so I will meet you at the end of your round 14 and we will tackle round 15 together. And this is what your work will look like with rounds of stockinette basically all around. And right now we are at the end of your round 14. Let's tackle round 15, which will be a round of increases again. So you're going to make 10 knit stitches, and in the 11th stitch this time you're going to knit 2 in the same stitch, and you're going to do that all around your 15th round. So 10 stitches, increase in the 11th, 10 stitches, increase in the 11th, and I will meet you at the end of your round 15. That's the 11th stitch, increase in it, the same way I showed you before. Alright, I will meet you at the end of your 15th round. And this is what your work will look like at the end of your 15th round. Look how pretty it is. Love working with the circular needle. There is no seam, seamless for now, and I love it. Alright, so we are on the 15th round. Once you're done with your 15th round, you will have 120 stitches in total. And you will continue just knitting round and round and round until the end of round 53. I will meet you once you have 53 rounds of stockinette in total. So knitting all around. And this is what your work will look like. And now it will be time to create the arm opening and the back. So for 53 rounds, we have been knitting in the rounds with our circular needle. We will still use our circular needle, but we will no longer be knitting in the round. We will make rows of knitting and purling back and forth, to continue to create the stockinette stitch. So from the beginning of row 54, you are going to knit 60 stitches, and then you're going to turn your work around. Place a second stitch marker. You are at row 55, no more rounds, and you're going to purl 60 stitches in between the 2 stitch marker you just placed. So at the end of your row 55, which was a purl row, when you reach the stitch marker, you're going to turn and row 56 will be a row of knitting 60 in between those 2 stitch markers again. So knit all along your 56 row, and until the end of row 77, you are going to repeat this knitting and purling, alternating 1 row of knitting, 1 row of purling, still working on your 60 stitches, and I will meet you once you are done with row 77. And we are almost done with your back. What is left to do is create the opening for the back of your collar. See, this is the armhole opening, which will host your sleeves later on. But now we are going to work on the upper shoulder on your back. And you're going to, for that row 78, knit 18. I have 18 stitches there. And then you are going to turn. So you're not going to knit your 60 stitches as usual, only 18, and then you're going to turn. And now for a row 79, you are going to purl 18 stitches. Alright, you're done with a row 79. Turn your work around. And row 80 will be a row of casting off. So you're going to cast off 18 stitches, and we're just creating the shoulder. So casting off, if you remember, is just knitting 2 stitches and passing the first one you knitted over the second one, and then knit another stitch, passing the first one over the second one. That is all there is to it. I will meet you once you have casted off your 18 stitches, creating the part, the right side of the back shoulder. Okay, once you have casted off those 18 stitches, you are going to fasten off. Take your scissors and fasten off. And now we are going to work on the 24 center stitches. So you're going to join back your yarn in the next stitch of the next stitch you had left. Remember, you only worked on your 18 stitches. You had left 42 stitches to be, and now you're going to cast off the next 24 stitches of this row. So we are basically back at the 78th row, remember, where we had began to do the right part of your shoulder. So cast off 24 stitches, and this will be the back of your collar, the middle part. And then we're going to, once you have casted off those 24 stitches, we're going to work on the other side of your shoulder. You will have 18 stitches to work on for the other side of your shoulder. Don't worry that there is a gap in between the 18 stitches and the 24. We will take care of that when we assemble our sweater together. Okay, so you work on the right part of your shoulder, you casted off 24 stitches, you have 18 stitches left. You still are at your 78th row, okay? We are going to work on those 18 stitches now. And we are going to make our 78th row, which is a row of knitting. So knit 18. And you're going to repeat what we did to the other shoulder, basically. So row 78 will be 18 knit. Row 79 will be 18 purl. And row 80 will be casting off those 18 stitches. And I will meet you once you are done with the other shoulder. Alright, so now we are done with the back of your work, and we are going to tackle the front of your work. So the back was just a tiny back collar, but for the front we are going to create the V-neck. So we're going to work on those 60 stitches we had left from the front. Remember, we had left it at the 54th row. So we're going to tackle that 54th row right now, working on 60 stitches again. We're going to make a couple of rows working back and forth. So one row of knit and one row of purl, 60 stitches each row for a couple of rows. So first you're going to have to rejoin your yarn at the beginning of the row, and you are going to make one row of knit, one row of purl until you reach the end of row 64. So working on those 60 stitches, we are working on the front part of your V-neck sweater, and we're getting ready to create the V-neck. I will meet you at the end of row 64. This is what your work will look like. So beautiful. The back is basically done. Now we're working on the front. and I'll show you how to create the V-neck. It's super easy. So to create the V-neck, we're going to work on one side of our V-neck and then on the next. So first the right side of your V-neck. You are at row 65 and you are going to knit 30 stitches and then turn. I will meet you at the end when you have 30 stitches. Alright, here you knitted 30 stitches and you are going to leave the next 30 stitches. You're going to turn and we're going to tackle the next row. Now to create the V-neck, every even row, every purl row on this side of your V-neck, you are going to decrease. And I will show you how to decrease. It's super easy. It is called a purl two together because you're going to take the next 2 stitches together and purl it as one. So pass your knitting needle through 2 of the stitches, purl-wise, as if you were purling your stitch, but instead of taking 1 stitch, you take 2 at a time. That is it. So pass your knitting needle through both of the stitches and yarn over the needle and push it with your thumb and off the main needle to the knitting needle. And that is it. Just like that, you decrease, turning 2 stitches into 1, and then you're going to purl the rest of your row, which is 28 stitches. And then for the next row, you're going to turn and knit. And then for row 68, you know it. It's going to be a row of purl, but you are going to decrease, turning those 2 first purl stitches into 1. And then you're going to purl the rest of your row, which will be 27 more purls. In total, at the end of this row, you will have 28 stitches in total. And you are going to continue like that back and forth. So a purl row and a knit row. Every beginning of your purl row you're going to decrease, and you're going to continue like that until the end of your 84th row. You will have 19 stitches left. And once you are done with your 84th row, for your 85th row you're just going to cast off all those 19 stitches. And you casting off while knitting, and you will be done with the right part of your V-neck. When you are done casting off your 19 stitches, you are going to fasten off. Take your scissors and fasten off. Alright, for the other side of your V-neck, you are going to go back to row 65, where you had left those 30 stitches. Row 65 will be a row of knitting, and row 66 will be a row of decrease, but you will decrease at the end of your purl row, not at the beginning. And you will continue, and I will meet you at the end while you will do exactly the same thing, repeating the other side of the V-neck until you reach the end of your row 84. And then you fasten off and you are done with your V-neck. Now it's time to assemble your shoulders together. You put your work in front of you with the wrong side facing you, and you're going to use your end tail and your tapestry needle. And if you don't have enough of a long tail, just grab the same yarn, and you're going to sew together to both of the shoulders. You have 18 stitches on the front and 19 on the back, but that's okay. You just match stitch to stitch, and you take the part of the V-stitch that is further away from you and the part of the V-stitch that is closer to you, and you sew them together all along the top of the shoulder, on one side of your v-neck, one shoulder, and then you repeat for the other shoulder. And by sewing the shoulders together, you just create the opening for that will host your sleeves. So sew both of the shoulders together. And also remember, at the back of your work you had a little gap in the collar between the 18 stitches and the 24 stitches. Time to sew that together with kind of a little sewing point. That's it. So you do not see any more gap now in the back of your collar. Alright, turn your sweater back to the right side facing you, and here is your sleeve opening. Now we're going to switch to your knitting needles that are circular and that are 18 inches instead of the big ones, the small one. And I'll show you two ways of picking up the stitches that you need for your sleeves. So you can just use your knitting needle and you will cast on 44 stitches in total. Go 22 going up the sleeve and 22 going down the sleeve. So this is the way you do. You just join your yarn like so, and then you pick up your stitches using your hand and your knitting needle, your working needle on the right hand, on the right side, and then your hand holding the opening, and you just put your knitting needle and you just pick up stitches like so, almost using your knitting needle like a crochet needle. And just like that, you will go all around, picking 22 stitches up your sleeve until you reach the shoulder seam, and then 22 down. All right, that is one way of doing it. I just wanted to show you another thing that I do. If you are not interested, I will put the timestamp here where you can just jump to the continuation of the tutorial. What I like to do is take my crochet hook and just make one round of single crochet and then begin with my knitting needle. I think that the transition is neater. So I'll show you how to, but if you're not interested, just jump to the timestamp. So I just want to show you, just in case you know how to use a crochet, and this is my favorite way of doing it. I think it's neater and it's easier. I just take 8mm in this case crochet hook right here, and I use it to pick up my stitches. I think it is the transition between the body and the sleeve, to me, is neater like that. So I'm just giving you the option. You just join the yarn with your crochet hook like that, and then you pick up single crochet, 22 going up your sleeve and 22 going down your sleeve. This is my favorite way of doing it, but you can very well do it with your knitting needle as well. For the technique with the crochet, you're going to slip stitch with the first single crochet you had made, and this is where the extra crochet step ends. So what you're going to do now is take your knitting needle and do exactly the same thing as you would do if you hadn't done the crochet row. You are going to, with your knitting needle, pick up knit stitches all around. The round of single crochet just helped making it really obvious now to pick up stitches, and just make it a little neater, that's all. Alright, but now we're picking up 44 stitches all around, and that is your first round. We are going to be knitting in the round again for those sleeves. Alright, so we have 44 stitches. You're going to place your stitch marker. That was your first round, and you're going to make in total 10 rounds like that. So 9 more rounds right now of single crochet all around, and I will meet you at the end of your 10th round. So you're knitting in the round. This is what your work will look like at about the 5th round. See how you're creating the sleeve, and you see how the transition that I made with the crochet make it really smooth. All right, we are at the end of your 10th round now. This is what your work will look like. And for the 11th round, we are going to decrease a little, and I'll show you how. Alright, so for this 11th round, what you're going to do is knit 7, and then you're going to knit 2 together to decrease. And you're going to do that all around. So knit 7 and then knit 2 together. Knit 7 and knit 2 together, and you're going to do that 5 times. You will have 39 stitches at the end of round 11. And then for around 12 to 22, you're just going to knit all around. I will meet you at the end of your 22nd round. And for your 23rd round, you are going to just knit 6. And you're going to decrease. So knit 6 and then knit 2 together, and you're going to repeat this 5 times. At the end of your round you will have 34 stitches in total. Now round 24 to 32 you're going to knit all around, and I will meet you at the end of your 32nd round. And for round 33 you are going to knit 5 and then knit 2 together 5 times. At the end of your round 33 you will have 29 stitches in total. Alright, I don't know what happened, but I lost some footage, so let me show you what I did. For the rest of the sleeve, for rows 34 to 44 I knitted all around, and then row 45 I knit 4, and then I decreased, I knit 4, and then I knitted 2 together. You are left with 27 stitches, and from round 46 to 52 you are going to knit all around. And for round 53 you're going to take slightly smaller knitting needle. I took 7mm knitting needle, and I will just begin to knit, leaving the working yarn of the bigger knitting needle to the side, and just beginning to knit with my new circular knitting needle. And I'm going to do 2x2 rib, which is 2 knits and 2 purls. But on this round I am going to decrease as well. I did 2 knit 2 purls, and now I'm going to knit 2 together, which will count as my first knit. And then I'm going to do another knit. Then I'm going to purl 2. So I'm creating the 2x2 ribbed little edging border for my sleeve while decreasing. That's 1 purl, 2 purl. And then the next knit I'm going to decrease 2 stitches together, 1 knit stitch, my second knit stitch, purl and purl. I have 2 decreases already. knit, knit, purl, make sure you scooch because it's getting a little tricky since your circular needle is bigger than the amount of stitches that you have. Purl, so I have 2 purls, and now just knit 2, purl 2 until the end of your round. At the end of your round 53, you should have all your new stitches on your new smaller needle. You can let the bigger one go. And now we're going to tackle round 54. Place your stitch marker to know where your rounds begin and end, and for round 54 you're going to do a round of knit 2, purl 2 all around. This is basically what you're going to do now from round 55 to 58. Knit 2, purl 2 all around. If you would like, you can change to yet one smaller group of circular needles, so 6mm if you would like, and that will make your border a little tighter. You can also make it shorter or longer, whatever floats your boat, but I did it until the end of round 58. And at the end of round 58, for my round 59, I casted off. So I'm casting off respecting the stitches. When I meet 2 knit stitches, I knit the knit stitch and then I cast off. If it's a purl stitch, I knit a purl stitch and then I cast off. And I do this all around until I have no more stitches and my sleeve is done. Then I fasten off and I repeat exactly the same thing. Round 1 to 50, where are we? One round to 59 on the other side for the second sleeve. And we are almost there, guys. The only thing left to do right now is, of course, to sew in the loose tails to the back of your work. And we are going to now create the border for our V-neck. And I'll show you how to do it. Of course, with circular needles. Alright, so now for the V-neck, place your sweater with the right side facing you, with the V-neck in front of you. Take a stitch marker and place it in the middle stitch, at the point lower middle stitch of your V-neck, right there. And we are going to take our sweater and we're going to join with a new pair of knitting needle. I took the 8mm knitting needle, not the 9 one, and then I joined at the upper part of the right side of the V-neck, right at the shoulder, where the shoulder seam and the collar, back collar join meet. And I began to cast on stitches around my back collar, the same way we casted on for the sleeves. And I picked up all the little 24, remember we had 24 stitches left in the back collar. I picked all those 24 stitches right there, and knitting. And picking up stitches at the same time. So I picked up all the 24 stitches all the way in the back of the collar until I met the beginning of the V-neck going down. And then I picked up about 27 stitches until I met my stitch marker. So this is the back, and I'm going to go and pick up stitches down the V-neck side. Alright, so you're going to do that until you reach your stitch marker we had put, remember, at the middle stitch. Take out your stitch marker, and in that middle stitch you are going to pick up 3 stitches in that same middle stitch where your stitch marker was. Here you go, and then you're going to continue picking up stitches up the other side of your V-neck, 27 stitches again, until you meet the first stitch you had picked up where you joined. Here you go, so you have picked up all your stitches. Put your stitch marker at the beginning of your round, so you know where it begins and ends. And now we're going to tackle the first round of your collar. The collar will be worked in 2x2 rib stitch as well. So you're going to make 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. And that is what you're going to do all around your first round for your V-neck collar border. Alright, you are done with your first round. Try to end with 2 purls, since you began with 2 knits. Switch your stitch marker and tackle the second round of your collar, which will be more of the same. So 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, all around. I'm going to repeat the same thing for round 3 as well, and you can make your collar as thin or thick as you wish. I had 3 rounds, 1, 2, 3, and then after the 4th one I thought it was enough, and I decided to cast off. And you cast off the same way you casted off for the sleeve, so respecting the stitch. When it's a knit one you knit, when it's a purl one you purl, and you cast off all around your collar. And voila, that is it, my friends. Once you are done casting off all your stitches from your collar, you are done with your beautiful V-neck sweater. Just fasten off, so in all the loose tails in the back of your work, and ta-da! You just created this beautiful understated classic V-neck sweater, and I have enjoyed creating it for you so much. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial as much as I have enjoyed creating it for you. I'm looking forward to many more. More sizes will be on my blog in a few days, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, happy knitting. Bye. And sometimes you can feel it. Anyway, the size that I'm showing you to do is about